Hi, I'm Anthony for Cindy Backyard Veggies, just over in my patch this afternoon. I'm over at my first planting of pak choi, and I planted these in my old borlotti bean patch here on my southern side of my garden. I planted these out about 2 weeks ago, and I'm just going to show you how I planted them out back then, and then I'll show you what I've done, what I'm doing today to help them grow and be ready for harvest in another 2 weeks time from now. I'm back over at the old bean patch this afternoon, and what I'm going to be doing here today is planting out a round of pak choi. Now I have been growing a bunch of seedlings, and I've got 4 punnets worth, and what I'm going to do is come through and actually plant out most, if not all, of these seedlings in this bed. And I'm going to go now and install the irrigation line first, and then plant my seedlings around that. So what I'm going to go over to first now is go sort out the irrigation line. So what I'm going to do now is plant out my seedlings, and with my pak chois I generally grow them in punnets, and what I'll do now is actually separate them into individual seedlings and plant them out. Now I find that pak choi seedlings are actually quite durable, and you can be quite rough with them and they will survive as long as they're well watered. Now what I'm doing is actually progressively removing each seedling individually, simply like that. Ideally I'd like to have a bit of soil on the root, but they still do fine just as is. So, and then once they're separated, it's just a matter of planting them out in individual locations at a spacing of about, look, I like to get them at about 5 centimeters apart. So across here I'd plant one on each side of the irrigation line, and then one, say, to the left of that and just to the right. And the idea is that they'll be close enough to the irrigation to get watered, but give them enough space to grow in a bit of size. And then what I'll do is I'll probably try and normally give them 10 centimeter spaces between the plants, going down the row. Taking my seedlings, just essentially just pushing it into the soil and just scrubbing the soil, compressing the soil around the root ball, and that's essentially it. And now these seedlings will be quite fine, and they are very durable. So continue planting them on like this, and that's done. So I'm going to continue planting them down the row, and I might bring you in closer to show you how I'm planting these out. Again, just coming across, continuing on with my seeds, planting at that 10 centimeter spacing, making sure the soil's well compressed around the base of the plant. And I'll just remove a few more seedlings, and that's it. It doesn't really need, they don't actually need that much space around them, and they do quite well. I might give them a little bit more space. I might just go a little bit further, but yeah, that's it, perfect. So I'm going to continue planting, and I'm hoping to get, I usually generally get about 80 seedlings per punnet, so I should have in the order of about 300 seedlings planted through here. So I'm going to continue on and just plant out the rest of them. So I just finished planting out 3.5 punnets of seedlings in this bed, and now I've pretty much filled up the bed as much as I'd like. I'm going to go give them a watering in now, just to really get them settled in, and over the next few days just keep my eye on them, especially around the warmer weather, making sure that doesn't impact on them and kill them off. But they're looking really good. Now these will be ready to harvest in 4 weeks. They'll be quite quick, and I will hit them with a couple of rounds of liquid fertilizer just to really get them going. So I'm back over at my pak choi patch, and this is day 10 since they've been planted out, and they are starting to really respond to being planted out, and they're doing really well. I'm going to bring you closer and show you how they look, and then I'll show you what I do with these plants at this stage of their growth. So this is how the patch looks at the moment. The plants have been responding really well to the sun and to the extra water. Now, one thing I did make a little mistake, and I will fix this in future, is actually I felt that the irrigation lines may have been a bit too far, and I was right. I will bring them, probably add another row irrigation line to make sure everything gets water. So I am somewhat hand watering these I am getting a little bit of weeds coming through these plants, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to harvest the crop way before there's any issues. But yeah, looking really good, and they are responding well to both the water, the regular water, and the heat. I'm now going to add some fertilizer. I want to harvest these plants in 2 weeks time, and the key to harvesting bok choy quickly and while it's still young is to actually give it a lot of fertilizer. These will need a lot of nitrogen fertilizer, so I'm going to go do up a can of liquid fertilizer, and I'm going to give these a watering, and I'll just show you what I'm going to use for that. To grow my pak choi quickly, I apply a lot of nitrogen fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, and my go-to is Power Feed, but you could use any liquid fertilizer you prefer, as long as it's got a high nitrogen content. This is very similar to the one I use on my brassicas, and essentially just a little splash in my watering can, and then I fill it up and I just apply it to the bed. So coming through, I'm just going to apply it liberally, the whole can to the bed, and once that's done, I'll still water this bed daily, but generally as a minimum apply my fertilizer once a week. So they're now all fertilized and good to go for this week. I will come back this time next week and give them the third and final watering of liquid fertilizer before I harvest them in about 2 weeks time. This bed, I am looking to plant out my first round of broad beans, so I'm happy to be able to clear this bed in time for that. Anyway, so this is done. I'm going to let it settle in, and I'll keep the irrigation on it for the next week or so as well. I'm back over at my main garden bed this afternoon, over in next to my cauliflowers here at the moment, and this afternoon I'm going to go and plant my row of sugar snap peas just down the edge of this bed here. Now this is the southernmost side of my patch, and the reason why I'm planting it over here is that it won't shade when they grow to the height of 2 meters. When I have them all trellised, it won't shade the rest of the bed, and also having this opening here, the walkway here, allows me to have full access to the plants on both sides, especially once I move on those cauliflowers. So what I've done here is I've gone through and actually just broken up that soil. I'd already dug it over when I was preparing the bed for the cauliflowers, and I've come through and put in one row, just using the back of my rake. I've made it quite straight but quite level as well, and I'm going to be planting my seeds down this row. But before I do that, I just want to show you the variety I'm planting, and then I'll go and plant them out. With my peas, especially my sugar snap peas, I've been having a lot of success with this variety. It's essentially called sugar snap peas, and it's a climbing variety, and I find that the only variety that works well for me is Yates. I find all the other varieties I buy in the sugar snap pea range are generally dwarf plants, so this is my go-to that I plant every year. Now before I plant out the seeds, what I tend to like to do is I like to get them soaked in a bit of water. These have been soaking since this morning, so about 6-7 hours, and that's plenty. It just allows them to start germinating and get some going before I plant them out. Now I'm going to go and start planting out these seeds, and I'll show you how I set them out and a few tricks and tips and tricks I do before I plant them. So before I plant out my seedlings, after I've formed up my trench, what I do like to do is really soak the trench. I prefer to plant my pea seeds in trenches in soil that's already been well watered, and that's the only time I'll water them. So coming through with my hose, I'm just going to fill up the trench and let that water soak in, and then I will plant my seeds. Just making sure I'm just watering that trench really well, really filling it up with water, and just helping form that trench just a little bit more, just knocking out those soils. So now it's full. It's going to wait until all that water is soaked in the ground. Then I'll come through and plant my seeds. So coming through to plant my seeds, I'm looking at planting them nominally 10 centimeters apart in the row, and just using a dibble. I'm just dibbling a hole, not too deep, but not too shallow at the same time, just enough to be able to cover those seeds up once I've planted the seeds. And I'm just doing it normally 10 centimeter spacings, and I'm just going to go all the way down the row doing that and adding my seeds. Just going to drop one seed in each hole, and then what I'm going to do is just cover them with a little small handful of vermiculite over each of the seeds. I prefer to use vermiculite, but there is no reason why you couldn't use fine dry soil. I find in my context vermiculite works well. And then that's it, and I would expect them to germinate into about 5 to 7 days. I'm going to continue through the row, plant out the rest of the seeds, and I'll show you the final result. So I just finished planting out that row, and the row's nominally 2.5 meters long, so I'll get a few peas growing in this spot. I'm not going to water it anymore after this. This is it. I won't water this until they germinate in about 5 to 7 days. The risk you do run there is that they start rotting in the ground from being too wet, but these should be okay at the moment. I will put a bit of cut protection on this because my cat has a habit of using freshly dug soil as a toilet, but I will, once they germinate, I will show you my string trellis system that I will install in this spot, and then hopefully in about 2.5–3 months time I'll be harvesting my first sugar snap peas. So yeah, it looks really good. I'm glad I got that in. I'm going to be planting more peas just in that back area there, and I'll probably do that in subsequent videos, and I'll probably plant climbing shelling peas there in that location. Just while I'm over here in the garden, I just wanted to quickly show you the progress from my last video. These were planted, this whole bed was planted probably now a week and a half ago. And I really wanted to show you how well my cabbages are going before I wrap up this video. I'm going to take you over there now and show you what it looks like. So just over at my cabbage patch, and from the last video if you remember, I planted 3 rows, total of about 27 seedlings. And this is about 10 days ago, and I've lost 1 or 2 small ones, but they've really started doing well. They're really putting on a lot of growth, so they're coming to a point where I actually need to start adding more fertilizer to them. I'm going to come through and probably give them a liquid feed at the moment just to keep them going, but as soon as they get a bit larger, probably in about 2 weeks time, I'm going to add my sulfate of ammonia to these plants just to really help them go, keep them going, and then I'll come through and pillow the soil at a later date. Now I have lost a few, as you can see there, and I have replaced them, but that's not here or there. They should be fine. If they don't grow, they don't grow, so fine with that. But while I'm here, quickly show you my broccolis as well. Again, they're starting to do well. Still losing a few, funny enough. I'm just not sure why. I'm still losing a few, and these corners have always struggled, but hey, it's part of growing. But everything else looks absolutely amazing. I've hilled some of them, added a little bit of extra compost and manure just to keep them going, and again on their way to be harvested in about 5 weeks time. So yeah, I'm really happy with how my main brassica patch is going, and I will keep you updated on their progress over the next few videos. Look, thank you very much everyone for joining me in my video today. Really appreciate all the support, and I hope to see you in the next one where I'll be doing a few more garden chores around my patch.